Hi, I'm Carl Gerriets. I'm a faculty member in the English department at Century College, and I wanted to talk about my experiments at trying to teach Express English. I will be teaching Express English coming up next semester, and I kind of want to document the process I'm going through and what I discover and what I try out. If you don't know what Express English is, I've provided a link to give you a little more, but it's an acceleration program based on the Accelerated Learning Program at the Community College of Baltimore County, and we're stealing a lot from them with their permission and their kind support. But I still have to figure out what that actually means for me to teach the class in my own situation, and along with my partner Colin Bailey Burns, we're each doing one section next semester, and I'm trying to look ahead and figure it out. So this series of reports is not intended to tell anybody the right way to do it, because I don't have any idea what that is. I don't even know if I have a right way to do it. I'm pretty sure there's not a single the right way. But I wanted to kind of share my experience and document this. You might be wondering why then I would choose this format to do it in, and I think there are three features there. First, I wanted to experiment a little more with the video format for another project I'm thinking about in the future. And second, as I'm a writing teacher, I know, and my students constantly remind me, that writing is really hard, so forget that. But talking to myself I do all the time, and this is just talking to myself with the computer on, so I figure that's about the right level of difficulty for me. And third, and probably most important, I've been using Adobe Connect with my online classes, so I've gotten used to working with the webcam, and I've come to really appreciate how it makes me look massively bald. I figure why not indulge in a little video blogging. I'm not quite sure what to call it. Is it best to call it vlogging for video logging, or vblogging for video blogging? Well, fortunately I have taken some classes in linguistics, and so based on that I have drawn on that knowledge and concluded that it's a lot more fun to say vblog, so we'll be calling it vblogging from now on. So in this vlog, I want to talk about my very first step to figure out how to teach that 90 class that's designed to just support and get them through the 1021 class, was to figure out what I'm doing in the 1021 class. In Express, we assume that the 1021 class is just your normal 1021 class, that you're not going to do it any differently. So I'm not making changes to accommodate the Express. That's certainly not the case, and that's not something we would do. I'm just making some changes because I was making them anyway, because I was trying to figure it out. But also because the 90 is built around the 1020 class, is built to support the 1021 class, I have to know what I'm doing there pretty clearly before I can start slotting in the 90. So that's what I've done, and I'm either going to attach or link the files for the 1021 class. If you want more detail of where that's been and you're at Century, it's on the iDrive, Larry, so you can check that out. So first I had to lay that out and get a picture of that, and so I did that with my usual precision and delicacy. But that allowed me to then know what I was doing and know what it is I'm trying to support. What are the projects going to be? How does it all work and everything? Briefly, then, that 1021 class is a portfolio class. The projects are it's not a narrative paper, but it involves some narration of a rhetorical sensitivity project where they tell about a time where they needed to show rhetorical sensitivity and draw some conclusions from that or observations from that. A rhetorical analysis on an open letter that they find somewhere, writing their own open letter to someone, and then a researched argument piece that's based around the concept of find a book you disagree with. Those are variations of things I've done this semester, but I've changed them a little bit. The open letter part is new, and I'm excited about that. So I've got that laid out and all set to go. So now I'm ready to start thinking a little bit, finally, about the actual Express class, the 90 class. It's kind of daunting to think about it. And because I kind of need a big picture to fill in, I had to first start figuring out some of the big questions of what the heck it's going to generally be. And it seems like, from what we've learned from Baltimore and from our other exploration, that It really should be built around whatever it needs to be to get them through the 1021 class. So what does that mean? It probably means I'm not going to do it quite the way I would do a normal 90 class. My normal 90 class is a lot like a 1021 class, just slower and more supported and with lower standards and more safety nets. We start more papers but finish fewer of them and finish them at probably a lower level, and we do portfolios more times so that there's a little less built up to do, but it doesn't really make sense in the Express context to have them doing a whole separate portfolio, a whole separate bunch of projects. What I want them to do is do better on the 1021 projects, and so it's going to be a lot more process work, a lot more support stuff, and a lot more customized stuff once I figure out what I'm up against. So what do I do for grades then? So thinking about how to grade the developmental class in this acceleration plan, I wasn't quite sure what to do. The way I normally do it is very similar to the way I do it in 1021. Grades for participation in the portfolio and the final exam, maybe a group project if I've done one, and then averaging those out with weight on the portfolio if needed. But that didn't make sense here because I don't think I'll be assigning a whole separate portfolio and a whole separate bunch of writing assignments. So what are we going to do? My first plan, of course, is to steal a good idea from somebody else. So I went looking at the ALP Faculty Handbook Manual from Baltimore, and they had a couple of different models they suggested. It's a little different for Baltimore because they do the developmental class as a pass-fail only. So the only, if you've dropped the 1021, the Comp 1 for them, all you have to figure out for the 90 class is did you pass or not, whereas we still have grades there. We tried to go to a pass-fail a few years ago, but somehow it never happened. I never quite understood, but it doesn't matter. I've got to somehow assign them an A or B or C or D or an F, so I need a way to do that. One suggestion Baltimore had was to base it on the final portfolio, and so in their system, if you pass Comp 1 with then you pass your 90, or if you don't pass Comp 1 for whatever reason, then your portfolio is assessed against the 90 standards and you pass or fail based on that. And I could just take their portfolio and grade it separately on the 90 scale. I even toyed for a while with just saying you get one letter grade better in 90 than you got in 1021 because it's often how it works in reverse. Students who end 90 with a B often go on to get a C in top 1 or whatever. Decided that was maybe a little too silly. The other suggestion Baltimore had was just basically to do a participation grade. They call it points, but I think they're just thinking points as a way to measure your participation in doing stuff. Because I've thought way too much about grades, I'm perfectly aware that there are other ways than points and percentages to figure out a participation grade, but I'm inclined to do a participation grade for the Express class because really what I want to emphasize and get them to do is to just do the stuff and to go through all the steps that I'm encouraging. So, so I think tentatively what I've ended up with is a plan where I will build the grade around their participation, but with a fail-safe check that they have to achieve a certain level with their portfolio to get there. So what it's going to say is if you pass 1021 with a C or better, then you get whatever grade your participation in this class has earned you. If you don't, then you have to give Carl your portfolio by this deadline, and if it's a passing 90 portfolio, then you still get whatever grade your participation's earned. Otherwise, you get the grade the portfolio demonstrates. So this is my way of doing a little gatekeeping, which I still sometimes feel weird about. It's a complicated thing, but sometimes I do wonder if they do everything we ask them to do in a class, especially a developmental class, and they still can't perform, is that on them or is that on us? And if it's on us, why are they the ones who have to pay for another class? And I don't know. I can't solve it well. But for right now, I think that's my plan, is if you pass 1021, you get a grade determined by participation. If you have a passable 90 portfolio, you get the grade based on your participation. I'm content with that. I don't feel that a 90 class needs to have a grade that says this is how good a writer this person is. I think it's okay for a developmental class to say this person is ready for the next class and performed exceptionally well as a student. I don't think that's a wrong way to build that grade, at least for right now. I might change my mind, but that's what I have for the moment as far as grading the 90 class. With that grading then kind of roughly in mind, then I can start thinking about what they're going to do and I don't have all those pieces yet. I had one project for 90 that I was going to do this semester, but then my 90 got canceled, where they would in groups create some kind of written advice about writing. Could be about a certain part of the process or a way of thinking or something about how to edit for a certain issue or whatever. And I'd kind of like to do that again. I'm not quite sure how I'll fit it in, but I'd kind of like to build that into the 90 still. I think that's a useful thing that can get them doing a little research and some collaborative writing and also some reflecting on what they're learning in the 2 classes. So I'd like to have that. And I'd like to see how much of the existing 90 stuff I can do. I think I still want to do the reading response I've been doing. So next up is for me to try to put together probably a participation grading document for 90 that can work, and then start looking at the calendar and figuring out how much of it, if any, I can plan. I'm usually a person who plans ahead the semester pretty thoroughly so that I can then improvise within that structure, but that I don't ever have to worry about, oh, I forgot to give them a homework assignment, because I just have laid it all out ahead. I'm not sure that's going to work with Express, so that'll be exciting new territory as well. So that's what I've got coming up next. For right now, I've got 1021 laid out and some initial thoughts about 90, and next I'll try to do some of that further planning.